Welcome, everybody, to another Clownversation. I'm Barnaby King, your host, and today I'm going to be talking to the amazing, the myth, the legend himself, Patch Adams. So don't go away.
It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clownversation.
Right. Hello, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Jump into the chat. Let us know you're there. Let us know where you're calling in from today. So good to have you here. Now, in just a second, I'm going to be bringing Patch Adams on to the screen to talk to us about his amazing life in clowning. But first, just a very quick heads up that in 2 weeks from tomorrow, in the Clown Spirit Village, there's going to be an amazing masterclass with Angela De Castro. She is one of the greats all-time clowning from Brazil, based in the UK. This is a masterclass on the clown's intelligence, and it's on March 2nd. When you want to sign up for the masterclass, you also sign up for Clown Spirit Village, which is a community of support with masterclasses, with live coaching sessions, with online courses, and with a whole bunch of clown resources to support you in bringing clown more and more into your everyday life, which is what we're all about at Clown Spirit Village. The link, if you want to find out more, is at the top of the description of this video, right below me here. And while you're at it, why don't you hit subscribe, hit the like button, share this with your friends and family. Let's help spread the clown love far and wide. Now, Patch Adams, born in 1945, he is a renowned American physician, social activist, and of course, clown. His unique approach to medicine integrates humor and compassion, emphasizing the importance of human connection in healing. Patch founded the incredible Gesundheit Institute, which is a nonprofit healthcare organization that promotes holistic and compassionate medical care. He's going to put that in much better words than me, I'm sure, in just a moment. His life and work also, of course, inspired the 1998 biographical film, Patch Adams, starring Robin Williams. With a commitment to laughter as the best medicine, Adams continues to advocate for a healthcare system that prioritizes empathy and joy. And through his lectures, writings, and humanitarian efforts, he spreads his message of love, laughter, and healing worldwide. So it is really a wonderful, wonderful privilege and pleasure to invite Patch Adams onto the Clownversation stage. Welcome, Patch.
Howdy.
Hey, so good to have you here. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Well, may the listeners please formulate their questions.
Yes, good thinking. Listeners, formulate your questions. Throw them into the chat. I'm going to tell you some of the things that people are saying, Patch, because there's some wonderful welcomes here. Paul from the UK, Paul Hooson from Canada, Joseph Travers from Scotland. I think you know Joseph. Professor Eek. Hi, Professor. Lynn Bernatchez. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Pandora. Hi, Jackie from rural New York State, Hudson Valley. So good to have you all here. Now, of course, as usual, I have a bunch of questions for our amazing guest, but I really want to make this a conversation and have everyone involved. So please throw your questions into the chat whenever anything occurs to you or responses to what Patch is talking about. Patch, I pretty much always start with the same question. So I'm going to throw this one at you. What was it that got you into clowning in the first place? How did you get sort of bitten by that clown bug and realize, you know, this is what you wanted to be doing for the rest of your life?
Well, you're right. I was born in 1945, and then it was a totally male-dominated world, as it's been for most of history. And I was a weird nerd, dweeb, dork, sissy boy, which doesn't really open the door towards maleness. And my father died in 1961. After 7 years of living in Germany, we moved to Arlington, Virginia. And we went to a public all-white school. There were 900 people in my class. And it was all white, not because there were no blacks, but because segregation was a dominant force. And I didn't want to be a normal male. I didn't want to be powerful and strong and right and those things. So I'd say more than 50 years, I've called myself a clown who is a doctor, not a doctor who is a clown. And I went to medical school. I did 1 year, and then I said, I can't do this anymore. It was so male. And I opened a free practice, but it wasn't like a free medical practice. It was a communal home, and I said, come visit. And it didn't cost money. So I've been a totally free doctor for 52 years. All that time trying to build a free hospital on our 312 acres in Pocahontas County, West Virginia.
Yeah.
I insist that I am a clown who is a doctor. Look at my clothes. I didn't dress up for this. These are my pants, and this is my shirt. And I'm a nut. I found that the world really needed nuts, and I don't mean cashews and walnuts, but people who are relaxed and funny and equal. I didn't fit in. I didn't fit into the male dominance that was in the world. I didn't fit into the capitalism that was dominant in the world. And I thought for humans to survive, and I think they'll go extinct. I thought for humans to survive, women needed to be in charge of everything in the world for the next 100 years. And it's a funny dream, because who would ever let that dream happen? And the clown spirit, or the clown way of life, it was a pursuit of mine. It wasn't like a thing, there's clowning, be the clown, because a clown performed in front of people. A lot of times they didn't dress like clowns. So I wondered, what were they? And when I became a clown all the time. I've been a clown with my children, and with people, the way I dress. And being free was unsettling to a lot of people who see the medical profession as the number one reason you lose your home, your bill. And so, in a way, it's been a creative direction. I'm not sure I ever really took a clown class per se. And I certainly have been with a lot of clowns, and I hope they like doing their clowning. I love doing mine.
So you mentioned that, a lot of clowns kind of become, step into that clown role when they're on stage, right? Or in the ring, and then they step out and they're someone else. And you are really wanting to just be the clown all the time, which is, a lot of people say is really hard. But I'm kind of curious what your references were when you were growing up for clown. Like, did you like clowns? Did you enjoy seeing clowns?
They were a separate profession.
Yeah.
When I grew up, you became a clown and were funny. And as I explored it more and more, I wanted a lot more breadth. And so as soon as I started wearing clown clothes and worked on my burping and
the whoopee cushion.
And the whoopee cushion, I've got 2 sizes in this pocket right now, not because of this show, but because I'm always with them. I've got 4 sizes totally, but I carry 2 sizes in my pocket.
Can you give us a demo?
A demo?
Yeah. I want to see your technique, your whoopee cushion technique.
Well, you know, a whoopee cushion technique, like here's a small whoopee cushion. And whoops, it looks like it has a hole in it.
Once you get it blown up, you know, I can sit down and you can make the noise for me, which is kind of.
It's got a hole in it, so I'm gonna have to get the other whoopee cushion. And you know, farting is, I'm gonna say, probably the #1 funny thing in life.
Yeah, I agree. And burping is number 2, I suppose.
And so it's one of the first things your mom says, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the traditional size whoopee cushion.
Oh, no.
And anywhere you do that is going to get a reaction. So it's
Except
great on elevator.
It doesn't work online, Patch, because, you know, modern technology is useless. It doesn't capture sounds like that.
I don't know how to use a computer. It's set up for me.
Don't tell anyone.
What?
Don't tell anyone.
Well, I'm happy to tell people, don't send me an email, send me a letter. I've answered hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I've heard this about you, that you answer every single letter that you receive, which is incredible.
I have 2 that came in yesterday that I'll answer.
Do you have a routine in your day? You sit down at a certain time of day and that's what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I wake up with my sweetheart. I'm the luckiest man in history that Susan loves me. And I make her breakfast, which is a couple of scrambled eggs, and I then make my raisin bran with 3 fruits. And then I go downstairs into my office and write in my journal. I've kept a daily journal. I'm on volume, I think, 86. And after I finish my journal, I answer letters that came. And then my recent style is to come upstairs and see where the action is.
What kind of action?
Well, I'm certainly wondering what Susan is doing and what people are visiting. And if I don't have something to do, my 40,000 volume library is here, and I haven't read every one of the books. It's paradise. I have 4 shelves of Alice in Wonderland varieties. So there are like 84 different versions of Alice in Wonderland, and
wow,
a couple of shelves of Edgar Allan Poe, people who've illustrated Edgar Allan Poe.
Patch,
You know, I love.
What do you think? I just want to go back to this topic of farting. Would that be all right?
Sure, anything is all right.
I'm curious why you think it's so funny, because it obviously is, but why?
Well, because when you grow up, if anybody farts and you can hear it, it becomes the subject of conversation. It's there. Everybody engages in farting, whether they say anything about it or not. If they lift their cheek and you don't hear anything but smell something, because it has a sound and then a follow-up scent that can be just breathtaking. And
that's a good word for it. It's breathtaking.
And there's a hush factor about farting. So
right.
You're on a crowded elevator and fart, most people don't want to know that they are the one that farted.
Yeah, they look at the next person over like, you know.
And you can go, fresh spring air.
My
And
daughter is here right next to me, and she's laughing. Just so you know.
well, it's hard to say the word in front of children and them not laugh.
Do you want to show your face?
It's one of the funniest things going. Get a chance to read that.
Patch, there's some questions coming in here. What is the current state of the Gesundheit Institute? I mean, I think I'd love to know more anyway about the Gesundheit. Let's
Well, we own 312 acres in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. 3 waterfalls, a 4-acre lake, a mountain of hardwood trees, rich bottomland for farming. It's paradise. Adam and Holly lived there. They've lived there for a long time and managed the land. You know, I quite frankly, when I started, I thought we'd be built in 10 years. We're in the 52nd year. And we've had the land a long time, 30 some years, and we have a few buildings. And my partner Susan has a school for designing a society, and our fantasy would be that there's a hospital, a 40-bed free hospital, and this school for designing a society, because to tell you the truth, men have done shit with designing society. That most of what's good in life is a feminine direction. And so, yeah, it's funny. I started leading clown trips when I was invited to speak around the world. I live in clown clothes, so I can clown every moment of my life, or just, you know, we don't have to interact. I look fruity. I have a long hair and a mustache, and I'm ready.
Yeah, you look the part. It's true. So with the Gesundheit, Patch, it started that 50 odd years ago, but it began in one form, right? As you had a house and you all lived together and you were doing the work, and then at some point you decided
people came there and got free medical care.
Yeah.
And quickly it became a larger community of 12 to 20 people. And it was really interesting because when people came and stayed, they got involved in the wonderful people who lived there. And most of them got involved in the cooking or cleaning up or setting the table. We were young hippies that had a garden, and all of these things were part of it. And then if somebody needed to go to the grocery store, if somebody said, could we go clown there? And that's a duh. So.
And what did that involve for you? What did it mean to go clown somewhere?
Well, I'm in clown clothes.
Yeah.
If I put on a nose, then there's no questioning what I'm doing. And, you know, I had a lot of gestures. Like I could go up to a person and just stare at them. And anything was possible. You can make a fart sound. Short or long, and long is fun. And they have little containers of stink bombs, so you can add stink bombs to your farting. That's a professional
enough, right?
Professional direction.
Yeah.
And you know, I was growing up in the Vietnam War, and segregation and racial hatred and feminine hatred, and feminism was coming into being, and then the environment became a really important thing. So all of them became important to me.
So you were there living in this communal, this communal situation. But at some point I read that it became unsustainable and you decided to change the model and start building something new.
When it was totally clear that it wasn't really a lot of people's dreams, 80% of promised donations never happened. And so I didn't give up on it. And the idea of living in the hospital eventually got to a point to where I got enough publicity. I was on the road over 250 to 300 days a year for over 30 years, lecturing. I now have lectured in 84 countries and every state. Lectures like Living a Life of Joy, What is Your Love Strategy, and that sort of thing. And being away so much, it doesn't mean that people couldn't call me up or leave a message or write me a letter, but it just has taken so long to make the hospital. I've never been discouraged. I'm still trying to build a hospital. It's still really important to have a free hospital. Maybe more important is the communal style. How humans, we are tribal animals. We are tribal apes. And yet most people either live by themselves or in a marriage or couple that's not very healthy. There weren't any lectures or talks on how to have a great relationship. And there certainly wasn't an encouragement except from communal people to be communal.
Yeah.
It's dumb not to enjoy the moment, even if you don't have your fantasy. And so it meant going to the grocery store could be fun. You could have sparkly eyes and a smiley face, and that alone made a lot happen. If you got goofy, then you added goofy.
What would happen when you said a lot would happen? What did you notice happening? What effect?
Well, people with children wanted the children to have an influence of that. And, when you get permission to be nutty, how far would you go? Most people much more blend in. And that wasn't my style. It was to make fun with life.
Beautiful. Paul Hewson has a question. You seem to be highly motivated to comment and take a visible stand on many global issues. What are your passions in that direction now? I guess he means what global issues.
Well, I grew up in a military family, so let's say the first one is nonviolence. I refused to be drafted.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to be a soldier for anybody. So, and it's more subtle than war, but male dominance was really strong. Male dominance among males and male dominance among females. And so at first I thought clowning was being funny, and it grew to be a way of life. And when do I want not to be funny and loving? Never.
That is to go back to Paul's question here. That is something you're taking a stand on, aside from politics, right?
Right. And you were seeing, signs like whites only in a free country. Yeah. And just the male female thing, the color thing, the gender stuff. And I think money was another thing that people with a lot of money think no one can bother them. Where for me, I want to tax them and give the money to love. So
Give the money to love. That's a very nice
and
phrase.
a lot of clothes for men are boring.
Mm.
Suits, for example. And they're not even colorful suits, they're dark suits. So to be funny, to be clownish, there were so many areas to go that made it easy for you to see that it was a fun direction.
Mm. Beautiful answer. Thank you, Patch. Here's another question from Professor Eek. Is being a therapeutic clown a way of healing the clown as well as those they meet?
Well, I never thought of myself as a therapeutic clown.
Mm.
Never once. I'm a clown, a goof. And I am, let's call me an extreme extrovert. I like goofing. So you can be sitting on a bus and in wild clothes, but tame. So if you put on a nose or make a whoopee cushion or something, then you can see what happens. The idea of it being therapeutic, I'm saying being loving and funny is therapeutic.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank
And
you.
yeah,
Nimrod has a question. Who inspired you in any way? Yeah, what heroes, life people have inspired you?
well, certainly my sweetheart Susan comes up, and just seeing the gentleness of womankind has been really important because I didn't really find a place for maleness
Mm.
that wasn't manly man. And um, there were people, so I loved Monty Python. I love Red Skelton. Growing up in Germany, there was not much variety on TV, and TV even came late. We don't have a TV here. So seeing funny people, the Lucille Ball, I mean, there were many people who you could steal from or simply reenact some of their lunacy.
Mm. Did you find yourself doing that, reenacting things that you saw, specific gags?
Well, yes, that would be more complicated things because farting and funny faces and weird shapes of body, they've been there forever.
Right. Just comes out naturally out of the body, right? You don't even need to think very hard about that sort of stuff.
Right. That a lot of my inspiration has been from me.
Mm.
That, I mean, imagine being a free doctor for 52 years. So I I think of the doctor part of me as a very small part of me, and the clowning part is the part that fills every day.
So in a way, the answer to the question, who inspired you, is yourself in a way.
Yeah, and my mother. I had a really loving mother, a non-verbal father,
Mm.
and you've heard me talk about how much I think I wish the world was feminized. And so I started noticing that a lot of, you go to someone's house and you can almost bet the woman makes your meal.
Right.
And so, and they're gentler. And so it was exploring. A lot of it was trying something and to see what happens.
Mm.
So someone can look at you on a bus and you can be like this. And then you notice they're staring, you can go, and then you can pop it. Or pop it and have it go really long. Or you can fly like a bird.
Do you do that sometimes to adults or only to children?
No, no one is safe.
Nice answer. So what would you say to men who are struggling with that issue of not, feeling that they don't fit in with that masculine society and the dominance of the male, and men who feel uncomfortable with that? What advice would you give them?
Well, study women. Because women grow up in it, and most of them don't become sons of bitches.
Hmm.
And they become the ones that take care of the children, cook the meals, and those sorts of things. And so
I've always felt that there's a kind of masculine and feminine energy in everybody. And sometimes there are women who really embody a high level of masculine energy and some men who embody a high level of feminine energy. And it's not necessarily the biological sex of somebody that makes the difference. It's kind of which, the masculine or the feminine, that they're channeling. Do you think that? Or...
Well, I think if people, I mean, what percentage of people are actually really what I would call thinking? And it's fewer than think they're thinking.
That's a good question.
And
Very small percentage, probably.
And so I'm an explorer, dressed the way I am and looking the way I am. I think people know that I'm an explorer.
Mm.
I mean, some guys look the same all their life. And the hierarchy thing and all of that. So I think it's unnatural for humans not to live communally.
Yeah, this communal living keeps coming back. It's interesting. I live in a co-housing situation. So there are a few of those around now, people who are deciding to live in communal village type arrangements where they share.
Well, the fellowship of intentional communities is this thick. And if each one takes up a couple of pages, they're huge numbers of communes. At least there were in the 60s and 70s. And maybe there are fewer now. It's so interesting. You can get a letter from somebody that's 22 and they're really looking for something and they haven't found it, so you can refer them to a place. Imagine them looking at a directory of intentional communities that's thick. So if you want a political or generational or something, it's out there.
We need a clown intentional community.
I think the clown would say, can we call it unintentional?
Yes. That's the thing, right? With clowns, they always want to go against whatever the structure is. So if you created an intentional community for a clown, they would want to go off and live in the woods instead. Or something.
Well, you wonder how it would be different.
Right. Well, I think I agree with the thing of women wanting women to rule the world, but I also think maybe clowns should for a little while.
Well, I think clowning is a step towards feminism.
Say more about that.
I can't think of many of the really manly men that I know that are funny. They're dominant.
Mm.
And they'd rather be really good at carpentry than at goofosity.
That's a new word for me, goofosity.
And for me.
Mike says, can't a neighborhood be an intentional community?
Well, neighborhood, I think, ends up with a whole lot of definitions and meanings for people. I've been to communes where it's all hierarchical.
Mm.
So, and there are Democratic communities and Republican communities and so many kinds of communities that we are naturally, you've heard me say it, collective people. Living alone or living as a duet can be a beginning. But here I'm trying to live with a 40-bed hospital and 80 to 100 staff. And then because of Susan, added the School for Designing a Society. And I think it's, for me, unclear still what that means for numbers. And Mike's question of, can't a neighborhood be an intentional community? I think if they did, they would call themselves an intentional community and not a neighborhood.
Right.
Because a neighborhood, I think in the modern definition, is a location rather than a descriptive term.
So maybe it's that a neighborhood can become an intentional community.
Right, it can. And imagine if 20 people live in a house that was built with, let's say, a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
Rent's much cheaper.
Right.
And if you're a low salaried person, a file clerk, let's say, you can live there and still have a lot to happening.
Yes.
You're a group allows a lot more happening.
And it's a subversion of the intention of the original building, which I like. You know, the house is designed for a nuclear family, but you know, we can use it in many different ways. We don't have to use it as it was designed.
Right. Or you can take over a small residential dwelling and have it be communal.
Yeah. It's interesting that, I suppose, thinking about designing something from scratch and building it versus just taking what's already there and sort of reimagining it.
Well, that's what we had to do. We had to first go, okay, we went to West Ox Road. It was on 12 acres. One could say there were 3 or 4 or 5 even bedrooms. And we started farming with animals and plants. And we had a really nice wood shop. We built a tree house. So there are lots of directions you can go in of variety costs. And can you get that phone?
Someone get the phone. Someone pick it up.
In
Pat,
the kitchen.
Yeah.
do you know Guy or Guy? I don't know how you would pronounce it, from Montreal.
Yeah, Guy.
He's writing. He says, "Hi Patch, Guy from Montreal, missing you and our trips."
Well, just know that you get a group of people together and you can be one of the trips right then.
Right. There you go, Guy. There's an offer. There's a good segue into talking about that. We haven't really talked about these missions, these trips. When did they start? And yeah, what was the intention behind them? Because you've done a lot now.
Well, I mean, did they start centuries ago? I haven't heard of too many clown groups in previous centuries than the 20th century and the 21st century. And the movement in the 60s and 70s was a movement towards communal life. It could have been, there were many variations. Even a biker gang was communal. And one could say the sky's the limit. If you're 19 and listening to this, you can go, what community would I build? Would I be part of? Should I start meeting with people? And what books should I read? And
I've heard so many things from people who've been on these missions with you, Patch, to Russia and to South America, groups. So you take groups of clowns, or you lead groups of clowns, and you go all over the world to different places. And
we've taken ages 5 to 92.
Right. Anyone who wants to go, and they raise their own funds, right, for travel. They fund,
right.
They support themselves. And tell us about, what is the intention once you're out there with them? What kind of, do you give them any training? Do you give them a talk? Like, what do you tell them to go out and do? What's the directive from you?
Well, I say go nuts. Do what you can't believe you're doing, and say that to yourself. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm farting on an elevator. Huge numbers of people have never farted on an elevator. You wonder how and I'm talking about a huge number, and they're over 10 years old. So
Lucy,
and I think getting crazy clothes, crazy hats, crazy shoes, and toys in your deep pockets is a great beginning. If you're in a normal man's outfit and a suit and something, and somebody, it's amazing how much people don't look at each other. You can check that out, and you can stare, and staring can be a really good first step for a clown. And staring and smiling then often adds something to it, adds safety to the receiver often. And I if people are playing at clowning, I don't suggest that they do a lot of judgment.
So I've had a lot of conversations with Lucy Sheffield, who's been on numerous of these missions with you, Patch, and she always talks about how you're all in clown costume right from the start, even on the plane, in the airport, and right for the whole trip, you're clowning. You're in that space of interacting.
I love it. That's why I say I'm a clown who is a doctor. I can't remember the last time I gave a psychiatric medication. I'd much rather give love and humor.
And when you're out on these missions, how do you just kind of wander the streets, or is it like going to specific
Well, we asked to go to hospitals, orphanages, prisons, nursing homes.
Yeah.
And they're often thinking of, let's call it a straight group of clowns going to visit. So sometimes they may not like what we're doing. And a nice thing about being a group of clowns is they don't know what a clown is. So almost anything the clown does is considered clowning.
Right.
And so you can go nuts.
Going nuts is the phrase that keeps coming back. I love it.
Well, it's a playful phrase. It isn't going crazy or angry or that sort of thing. Make peace. I can't imagine a clown that isn't mentally thinking peace on earth. And there are arrogant prick clowns.
Mm.
And they're often judging, well, I'm better than they are. Oh, I don't have as much experience as those people. It people with conversations with themselves. And that's why I try to show, when I go to a hospital, I want to know who is suffering the most. Same with an orphanage or a prison or a nursing home.
Right.
I'm happy to go because I don't have to make them feel better to feel like I was useful.
How do you know that how do you feel useful? What is it that lets you feel that way?
That I tried. Did I try? Did I never give up? Did I experiment? Instead of going, oh shit, that didn't work, and oh God, I don't know how to clown like Patch, or silly things like that. If somebody dressed as a clown came up to me and said, can you give me a quick class? Is an easy one. And
that's a good class.
Squatting and farting is another good start. I mean, you can squat and fart 100 times in a day. Or, you go to a hospital and you're going into a room of somebody that's dying. Give them some fun. And you can have other interests. For me, I memorized poetry. And you can look at their room and see anything that is influential. Or you can see that the person has 3 visitors in their room and 2 of them are hating it.
Right.
So you play with the situation.
Play with the situation. Thank you. Yes, beautiful. There's a question here from where is it? Clown Daddy. Well, actually, there's 3 questions. You can choose. Do you have a favorite color? A favorite shape?
Yes, I love all the colors. I love all the colors.
All the colors. What about favorite shape?
Well, I pull up my pants leg, they hook in my upper thigh, and I can pull up the waist and put my arms in and be a really large person and not do anything. I don't have any tattoos. They hurt. And I'm not a self-hurt person.
Yeah, me neither.
It's not my style. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. You can, if I had tattoos and decided to go tattoo, I'd say, what weird shit would I like on my face? What about a buttock at the forehead?
I bet if it didn't hurt, you'd probably have some tattoos, Patch, because it seems like
yeah, because they're fun.
Yeah.
And you can have a face on your cheek that does.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't hurt as much as you think. If you've never had one, you don't know.
I haven't had one a lot because what are clothes but complicated tattoos?
Right.
Look at this shirt.
Right. And you can change it every day. That's the advantage. With a tattoo, you
right.
can't.
I don't have any monochromatic clothes.
Good for you.
So
I think Clown Daddy is happy with his answer there. He says, amazing answers.
You have a favorite color?
Hang on, that's the same.
No, I like a mixture of colors.
Here, he says, amazing answers. Thank you, Patch.
You betcha, Clown Daddy.
Now, Ginevra is on watching, Patch. Ginevra,
I love you, te voglio bene.
We all love you, Ginevra. You're an inspiration.
Next few months will be in Georgia, near Armenia, and Napoli, Italy.
Yeah, you're going to Italy, right?
I think so. And it looks like we'll be in Georgia
and
Armenia and Napoli. I love clowning, whether it's in a grocery store. I look at people, and even as Patch without the nose and any of this clothes, I'm friendly.
Yeah, you are. I know that you've been going to Iquitos, Belen, for a long time, right? Back many, many years to Belen.
Right. It's very rural.
Yeah, it's very remote, right? It's way out there. I'm wondering what you see when you manage to go back to the same place year on year. What are the real impacts you can have on a community when you just keep going back to the same place?
Well, you can be ecstatic over someone who remembers you.
Mm.
Children are often rememberers. If you've been to an orphanage and the child was really lonely there and they sat in your lap for 2 hours, if you come back 3 years later, they're going to remember you.
Yeah.
And I like the remembering. And I might joke with them about remembering. I mean, did they see my fake leg?
Right.
I love to take off my prosthesis and let them play with Stumpy.
Yeah. The kids, I
Instead
imagine.
of going pathetic, poor Patch, amputation, blah, 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 I've got Stumpy as a playmate.
Just another toy in your clown bag of tricks.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, they've seen a lot of prosthesis, but never stumps.
Mm. And again, you're just kind of like, you're just being as open and honest and revealing the truth as possible, instead of keeping the thing hidden like farts and
Right.
leg stumps. You're just like being very open about it.
That's right.
Here's a question.
I usually want to go to the most agitated, the most deformed, the most upset, and be their buddy.
Yeah. We've got a question here, Patch. Have you ever had to rein in a clown who was not being respectful or aware?
Well, since I'm one of the leaders of most of the clown trips I'm on, I don't want anyone to do violence. If they're going around thinking, "Oh, I'm not a clown, Patch is a clown, they're a clown, I'm not a clown," I don't mind teaching them to go up to a kid and making a funny face.
Right.
So if they're not being respectful as a piece of shit, let's say, then I don't mind telling somebody that their clowning bothers me.
Right.
And I would never ask a person to leave a trip by myself. I would have to hear from other clowns, and I would tell them, check out Charlie and see how he is. And that's why I haven't been afraid to take ages 5 to 50 or to 92.
Here's another question. I think this is an interesting one. E.D. Krauser says, by bringing clown to the world and in everything we do you believe we truly are capable of healing the world?
Well, in that moment, in that place, yes. I think, can you name a leader of a country you respect?
Not at this moment. I'd have to really think about that.
And we're not talking about one.
Right.
And it's hard for me to name a leader of a country I respect. And that's the world. I often tell audiences, say, if we don't change to a feminine world, we're going to be extinct in 100 years. You know, you can drive in a neighborhood and it's all these single family dwellings.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the first real communal home where we had 20 people living and 12 acres. It was paradise. And then we bought 80 some acres in West Virginia on the Shenandoah River. And that was another kind of paradise. So, you know, a lot of people don't grow up with paradise on their mind. Life is hard.
Mm.
You know, I'm 78. When was life hard? Well, as a teenager, manly men beat me up. And I was frightened of manly men. And now I'm a professional nut, so I don't get beaten up.
I think the answer to the question then, in a way, is we can heal the world in a particular time and place. That's a different question from whether we'll survive as a
Right.
everyday.
And it would be a more honest question if you said capable of healing a person. Okay, so if I'm asking, as I do many times, for who is suffering the most, I do that not because I think I'm not going to be able to do something, but because I actually think I can do something. So they're laughing.
Mm.
And usually that means we're hugging after that. So if we're talking about, I think the sentence is better if we say are truly capable of healing in a moment or healing a person. Healing the world.
Mm.
You know, I get letters from all over the world, and the person can say, I'd like to start clowning, or, you know, I don't get "you're dead, motherfucker" as a message in the letters. I have gotten it in person.
Mm. Interesting. I really like going back to one of the very first things you said in our interview, Patch, when you connected the word funny to the word equal. And I see that over and again in your work, that there's something about equality and social justice and comedy and being funny that's really closely related, that those things kind of have to go together.
Yeah, I want a world with no enemies. And not that they're all agreeing on something, but they do want to give up violence.
Mm.
I'm if I had to, if I had to kill one person to bring the world at an absolutely peaceful world, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I cannot live with hurting somebody. And often, if I go somewhere and I see that I've frightened them and they're scared, often I can go to extremes and even let them see Stumpy. I think when I think that the clowning and presence and just the person, if they're responding in an unfriendly way, I will try my different experiments.
I love that you said the thing that makes you feel good after a visit is that you've tried and you experimented. I think that's such a great
Did
philosophy.
I try? Did I never give up?
Mm.
Yeah.
So we're almost up with out of time here, Patch. I was wondering if you had any final advice for you mentioned, that you didn't want to have another bad day ever, and that I wonder what advice you would give to somebody who wants to be happy every day.
Well, first, if they want to be, instead of it being a philosophy, okay, try it. And You know, it's not like I'm bragging that I'm not having bad days. You know, I'm not hungry. I'm not starving.
Mm.
I'm not in a war zone. And I feel it was very quick as I became more and more of a self clown that I felt safe wherever I was. And if I'm in a situation where I see that there is hatred, I will try to see if any of my tricks can change the hatred.
Mm.
And sometimes it can. You know, it's amazing how people can act if they're fully lonely. And so if they end up with a buddy, you can even see them going through the thought processes and thinking, you might be a buddy. This might be a friend. And I mean, for me, I feel I have thousands of friends.
All the people who write to you, for example.
And just people you meet, or
Mm.
people can come up and say, I love your clothes, or you know, the world is there for play.
That's I think, a beautiful phrase to end on, Patch. The world is there for play.
Right. And needs it. You hear me? We're going to be extinct in 100 years based on today. You know, that's why I say I wish women were in charge of everything for the next 100 years. And I mean in the world. So, all the people listening, and you say there are a lot of them, go have fun. Go have your kind of fun and start putting different toys you use in your pocket. And if your clothes are all monochromatic, get at least one outfit that's your clown outfit, and the rest of the time you're normal Charlie. But know that the world needs you, and that's every day, the rest of your life. And the world is in trouble.
Mm.
And the most celebrated thing in the world is money. It's so interesting to see how people talk about billionaires and how somehow they have the right to be bossy. I can't imagine being a billionaire. I want to be generous. And if you're a billionaire, your generosity is very ordered.
Hmm.
And I can certainly tell people and everyone it's not hard loving your life every day. Love people, love nature. I mean, friendship, nature, and the arts are infinite in possibilities.
Thank you,
Exclamation point and goodbye, Charlie.
Patch. Thank you so much for your wisdom today. And just thanks for your optimism and your energy and your passion and your resilience and your freedom, and for sharing all of that with us.
It was fun.
It was.
And remember, I want a different world. I do this so that at least one listener decides to be loving the rest of their life and funny. And wow, you don't have to be rich to be any of those things, or handsome, or so go to it and love people. Whee!
Bye, Patch.
Bye bye. Have fun.
Wow. Very cool and unique conversation and very inspiring. Thank you so much, Patch Adams. And thank you all for joining me today, and joining us today for another conversation. Don't forget Angela De Castro's masterclass in 2 weeks. The link to sign up is at the top of the description for this video. Next week, I'm going to be with Chad Damiani, who's one of the leading lights in the Los Angeles clown scene, wonderful clown. So don't miss it. But for now, from me and Patch and all the clowns, thank you so much for joining us again today. Signing off. Bye for now.